Picture this, a husband recovering from a brutal accident, his body broken, his spirit weary, relying on his wife not just for help, but for love and partnership. Now imagine the devastation when that trust is shattered. This is the story of a man, a husband, who discovered betrayal in the most vulnerable chapter of his life. The backstory. Marriage is a journey, right? For him, a 40-year-old entrepreneur, it had been a decade-long ride with Christine, his 39-year-old wife. Together, they built a family and a life, including their 9-year-old daughter, who is their greatest joy. Like most relationships, theirs had seen its fair share of struggles. Trust issues? Sure. Arguments? Plenty. But infidelity? Never. Or so he thought. In recent years, he had committed to becoming a better husband. By his account, he had done well. Their intimate life was alive and thriving, something he didn't take for granted. A blessing, he called it, reflecting on his frustration with past relationships that had left him unfulfilled. Their partnership extended beyond the bedroom, too. He had founded a business before their marriage, and Christine had later joined him in running it. They were a team in life and work, or so he believed. Then, 2 weeks ago, everything changed. The accident. It was a routine drive to work that turned into a nightmare. A T-bone collision at a red light landed him in the hospital with a broken femur and humerus. When he woke up, pain radiated through his body, but relief came when doctors confirmed no internal damage. Home 2 days later, encased in casts, he faced new challenges. Movement became a clumsy dance of stumbles and leans, and basic tasks turned into Herculean efforts. Christine stepped up initially, helping him navigate this new normal with what seemed like genuine care. But as the days stretched into the second week, her attitude shifted. The smiles faded, replaced by curt responses and noticeable distance. Was it the strain of caregiving? Or something deeper? A shift in the air. Their once vibrant intimacy had stalled during his recovery, but he felt the desire creeping back. When he asked her if his limited capabilities were a burden, she dismissed the notion with a sharpness that stung. Her change in mood coincided with this lack of connection, or so he believed. But then came a baffling twist. One evening, Christine returned home from managing the business, practically glowing. Her mood was effervescent, almost giddy. It was such a stark contrast to her previous demeanor that it left him uneasy. Was she just having a good day? Or was something more sinister at play? A suspicion grows. As her mood fluctuated between detached and exuberant, his mind spiraled. Could she be seeking intimacy elsewhere? Christine had never given him a reason to suspect her, but that night, the doubts were deafening. When she came home happier than ever, again, he noticed subtle clues, the faint scent of alcohol, the absence of her usual kiss. Her joy felt too specific. And then there was the phone. The discovery. The idea of checking her phone made his stomach churn, but the need for answers outweighed his fear. Late one night, while she slept, he finally took the plunge. His hands trembled as he unlocked her device. The photos? Clean. Videos? Nothing unusual. But then he opened her messaging app. And there it was. An unread message from Alex. His heart sank as he recognized the name, an employee at their business. The conversation was innocent enough at first, but the tone shifted drastically a day before Christine's first bubbly return home. Flirting. Banter. Then, unmistakable evidence of intimacy. Dates lined up with her brighter moods. Home safe? Alex would text, only on those specific nights. It was a pattern he couldn't ignore. He took screenshots, cataloging every incriminating detail. The fallout. In the days that followed, he wrestled with his emotions, anger, betrayal, confusion. How could she do this while he was laid up, unable to fend for himself? Their marriage hadn't been perfect, but he had trusted her. He knew he couldn't confront her blindly. He needed a plan, but every thought seemed insufficient. Divorce? Sure, but that felt too simple. He needed justice. Satisfaction. Something to balance the scales of betrayal. The question: what would you do in his shoes? How does one navigate the wreckage of trust, love, and betrayal, especially when left so vulnerable? Stay tuned, because this story isn't over yet. The path forward is murky, but one thing is clear: this man won't let betrayal define the rest of his life. Imagine this: you're laid up, Two casts on, the echoes of a car accident still haunting your every movement. And in that vulnerable state, the person you trusted most, the one who vowed to stand by you in sickness and in health, betrays you. That's exactly what happened. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. It all started with a hunch, a flicker of doubt ignited by too many inconsistencies. And when it came to light that Mr. Employee of the Month wasn't just brewing coffee, but stirring up something far more intimate with your wife? Well, let's just say the betrayal burned deeper than any broken bone ever could. The plan for revenge? Sure, there's the textbook approach, a lawyer, a divorce, but where's the satisfaction in that? There's something far more fulfilling about reclaiming your life with creativity, turning the tables, and rising above the wreckage left in their wake. Fast forward to the aftermath. The internet had spoken. Every single comment, every piece of advice, it all shaped the path forward. Step 1, a meeting with a divorce lawyer. No commitments just yet, but gathering the arsenal. There was still a part of me that clung to the possibility of some rational explanation. So, I confronted her. With a little more mobility, I insisted on accompanying her to work. The resistance was immediate, half-hearted attempts to dissuade me, her excuses as flimsy as a paper shield. But I wasn't backing down. An hour later, we were en route. The office buzzed with activity, and most of the team seemed genuinely happy to see me. Even him. Alex. His awkward demeanor couldn't hide the guilt. As for her, she wore a mask of discomfort, her tension palpable. Towards the day's end, I summoned Alex into my office, ensuring my wife overheard. Her reaction? Frozen panic. She followed him inside, a move she wouldn't make for anyone else. But I played it cool, keeping my questions mundane, client-related. Alex visibly relaxed, but her unease lingered, cloaked in awkward silence. By the time we headed home, she feigned a semblance of normalcy, her chatter forced, her relief almost laughable. The next day brought the confrontation. She walked in, her mood unusually buoyant. It set me on edge. The thought of her coming straight from an encounter with him was nauseating. Summoning every ounce of courage, I asked her to sit. "Are you cheating on me with Alex?" Her response? Immediate. Unflinching. Yes. Just like that. No hesitation. And then, unbelievably, she left the room to grab a yogurt. A yogurt! My shock barely registered before she returned, utterly unfazed, her demeanor almost casual. When I demanded an explanation, her words sliced through me like shards of glass. She spoke of her needs, of how I wasn't fulfilling them. My injury? My casts? Irrelevant to her. She didn't cry, didn't plead, didn't apologize. Instead, she justified it all, her tone maddeningly indifferent. "Are you even sorry?" I asked, my voice barely steady. No. Her audacity was staggering. She claimed she had every right to seek pleasure, blaming me for getting T-boned by an SUV, as if my accident was some deliberate inconvenience to her life. And then it unraveled further. I stood, my frustration boiling over. I didn't shout or threaten, but my approach clearly unnerved her. She shoved me hard. I fell, hitting the coffee table with a sickening thud. Pain shot through my shoulder as I lay there, stunned. And yet, she didn't stop to help, didn't even check on me. Instead, the door slammed, and her car roared away, leaving me alone in the wreckage of our marriage. Minutes passed before I could struggle onto the couch, my shoulder throbbing. My daughter, woken by the commotion, stood at the top of the stairs, tears streaming down her face. Her small voice broke me. "Daddy, what happened? Where's Mommy?" I had no answers for her. Only empty reassurances and a broken heart. The fallout was swift. The police came, took my statement, and escorted me to the hospital for x-rays. No fractures, thankfully, but the emotional wounds? Those were far worse. That night, as my daughter slept, I texted the lawyer, "I'm ready to proceed." In the days since, my wife hasn't returned. My daughter keeps asking where she is, and I'm left spinning tales of a trip to her sister's. But the truth looms heavy. She's gone. And so is the life I thought we had. Now, it's time to rebuild. Not just for me, but for my daughter. Because we deserve better than the ashes she left behind. This wasn't just a breakup, it was war. A war I was ready to fight, armed with every tool I needed to dismantle Christine's world. She wasn't sorry for betraying me, not one bit. But my mission? To make her regret it all. Yes, everyone has their needs. But bones? They heal. That's what they do. And vows? They're supposed to mean something in sickness and in health, not in bed with the office assistant. Christine must have missed that memo. Filing police reports, prepping for divorce, call me a one-man vengeance machine. With my daughter as my anchor, I was ready to turn this circus into an unforgettable spectacle. Update, as I write this final chapter of my story, I can't help but smile. It's been months since my last update, but trust me, this conclusion is worth it. Step 1. A scorched earth approach. I sent text messages to every single relative of Christine's I could think of, her parents, her cousins, even that one friend I'd only met twice. I included everything. Every sordid detail. Photos of her and Alex, the office fling, cozied up in their treachery. Some replied with sympathy, others? Silence. I didn't care. My job was to document her sleazy behavior for all to see. Next, I walked into our workplace. There she was, Christine, looking startled, as if expecting me to crumble under the weight of her betrayal. Instead, I pointed straight at her and her partner in crime, Alex. "You're both fired," I announced. Christine, once my wife, was now just another employee. Her name wasn't on the business paperwork, thank God for that. Alex looked stunned, but he didn't argue. He knew he was guilty. 3 years of working under me, and this was his reward. Let's see how he explains this when he's hunting for his next job. Christine, though, was furious. She stormed up to me, and I braced for impact. Would she hit me again? Part of me hoped so. It would make my next move even sweeter. Instead, I handed her divorce papers, right there, in front of everyone. Her face flushed with rage, but I didn't care. She snatched the papers and stormed out. The aftermath was messy. Furious texts and curses flooded my phone. Once she realized how many people I'd exposed her to, her anger boiled over. But the real turning point came when I filed the police report for the assault. Armed with medical evidence, I pressed charges. My lawyer built a case so solid it was almost poetic. The result? Christine got a week in jail and mandatory anger management classes. Knowing she now had a criminal record? That was justice. The divorce proceedings were drawn out, mainly because Christine fought tooth and nail at every turn. But the evidence was overwhelming, her cheating, her assault, her lack of remorse. In the end, I got what mattered most, custody of my daughter, our home, and the satisfaction of knowing Christine was paying the price. Sure, I have to pay alimony for 5 years, manageable, considering everything else. She's out of the business I built from scratch, and her credibility is in shambles. My daughter is safe, and her mother's temper and questionable choice in men are officially someone else's problem. And Alex? Oh, Alex! The audacity of putting me down as a reference. I made sure to paint a vivid picture of his professional shortcomings. When the hiring manager called, I laid it all out, his incompetence, his inappropriate behavior with colleagues' partners. Watching him squirm through that? Priceless. So here I am, writing the final words of this saga, knowing I've done all I could to protect my daughter and rebuild my life. No evil goes unpaid, and I made sure of that. Would you have handled it differently? Let me know your thoughts. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. See you next time.